So today we're going to do pork in cider, and since we're in Northern Ireland, we're using Northern Irish pork. We have Irish cider to top it off, and well, the ingredients are as local as we can get them, basically. So potatoes, apples, pork, and cider. So let's get started. So I'm going to start by prepping my ingredients. I'm going to start by chopping up the onions and garlic. One of the onions I'm going to chop very, very fine. Because it'll make a better gravy if I do that. And the other one I'm going to be a bit coarser with. The potatoes and the carrots will be going in later because they don't take particularly long. They'll take about an hour tops. Whereas the meat and things like that, I want to give at least 2.5 hours to. So first things will be the meat and the vegetables going in, and then the carrots and the potatoes will be done later. So I may as well get cracking on the onions. Right, I'm using a Bramley apple for this because that's what I bought. If I'd bought Braeburns, they're a much harder apple and they don't dissolve. This Bramley will turn to slush because Bramleys fall to bits when you cook them. So I've taken the skin off the bits of Bramley I'm using. But if it was a Braeburn or a Cox or something like that, I would leave the skin on. But not for this, otherwise I'll just have pieces of skin floating about inside. Not going to look all that good. Yeah, okay, so I've got a couple of cherry tomatoes and I'm going to put them in just to put a little splash of colour in. I'll probably put a little dab of tomato puree in as well, just to give it colour. Otherwise it all looks a bit pale when it comes out. Tomato puree and gluten-free stock cube, which I had forgotten. It's just a vegetable stock cube, so it's nothing fancy. While I'm digging around, we'll put some mixed herbs in. Right, so let's get started on this. I'll get these into the pot and then we'll chop this pork up. And then we'll come to the really, really tricky bit of the recipe, which is forcing myself to pour perfectly good cider into a cooking pot. Right, so I'm just going to cut this into
good sized chunks.
Good sized chunks. And you can see how lean this meat is. So I've just put the onions in and I'm just going to cook them until they go transparent, or at least begin to become translucent, and then it'll be a case of just putting the other ingredients in. Right, so they're doing all right. So next to go in is the stock cube, and I'm going to put the meat in to start it cooking. Now for most people I'd recommend what you do with this is you get a big pot with a lid that you can leave on the cooker and leave it simmering, because it needs to go for about 2 hours minimum, 2.5 to 3, just to tenderize everything up. I will be putting it into my thermal cooker, and in the thermal cooker, heat is everything. The hotter I can make things, the better it cooks. So I'll just get this underway. Now I'm just going to take a minute to talk about the cider. The reason I'm putting cider into it is not because I'm sort of alcoholic maniac cook. It's because the flavours of apples go well with pork, as everybody generally knows. But alcohol is acidic. And the toughness of the pork, because that fillet has no fat in it, as it cooks, it doesn't really get tender. It gets chewy, actually. But by putting alcohol into it, white wine would work just as well, or even a red wine. The acid in the alcohol breaks down the protein in the meat and it makes it nice and tender. So this will be more tender because I'm using an alcoholic liquid than if I put plain water into it. It has the advantage that it tastes like apples. That's nice. But I'm getting a double advantage. I'm getting a pleasant taste and I'm getting the protein all softened up. So I'm adding about a tablespoon of tomato puree. And my little chopped tomatoes. Here goes my apple. And now we add the cider. First, make sure that it's in suitable. Oh yeah. Right, so I've got tomatoes in here, which are acidic. I've got cider in here, which is acidic. And I have put in Bramley apples, which are very acidic. And all that is to help soften up that pork. Now it means that later on this might taste like eating vinegar, which is not good. So once the acids have done their job and softened that meat up in about an hour's time, I will add about a tablespoon of sugar to counteract the acidity. Otherwise, it's going to be absolutely dreadful. Oh, I need to put in a little bit of salt and pepper just for seasoning purposes. Obviously, you just put in whatever you feel like. I'm putting about half a teaspoon of pepper in. And I'll put a wee bit of salt in.
And some herbs?
Oh yeah, let's put some herbs in. Good idea. Let's have some herbs. Oh, yeah. There you go.
In a particularly...
The mushrooms!
Okay, well they can go in. That's a lot of food, Bev.
Okay, so it's a lovely day. That's getting on with it. Let this simmer in a big pot for at least an hour, preferably an hour and a half. And then after that we do the potatoes and the carrots. But it's such a lovely day outside. We're going to go and do some boat tasks because we have to adjust our foresail. It's not up the track right and we have a little bulge in it, and so we've got to fiddle around and get it all straightened out. So we're going to leave this to get on with it, and we're going to go play with our boat.
Yep.
So we're getting ready to do the vegetables. I have loaded the carrots into my pot that I'm going to use. I'm just going to fill the rest of the pot up with potatoes, and I happen to know from past experience that this is about right for us too. So I think there's probably going to be about 500 grams of potatoes in here, so I'll let you know.
That's plenty.
Where's my lid? I'll just try it for size. Yeah, that seems alright, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'll get that simmering. So I've tested it and it's a little on the tart side, so I'm going to put about a dessert spoon of sugar in. I mean, it's something you can do to suit your own tastes. So there's no right and wrong about it. Ooh. And on this side we can see it, that is merrily.
Oh, that's hot.
That's plenty hot enough. Well, since I want Mr. D to put things into him, I've given him a reheat because it cools down when you take the lid off. My potatoes are bubbling away merrily, so I'm going to put them in. Obviously, if you're just using ordinary kitchen stuff, you just keep this simmering away until your potatoes are cooked. And like I say, simmer the meat for at least 2 hours. I'm letting mine simmer in here. Normally I would do these in the oven, but a quick way to do it is to put the olive oil in a pan and braise them in the pan, so I'm doing it that way. Because it's quick and uses less gas.
Quite a big drizzle.
It's quite a thin stream of honey, it's not always... There's probably about 2 teaspoons of it.
Yeah. Some gorgeous sauce. I think that'll do my plate. Well, I have to say, it looks divine, but we are missing a major ingredient. Oh yes, have to have a glass of cider to go with it.